So here's the thing, I find this whole story a little bit, well, first of all, it's very reminiscent of the early 2000s. Now, if you read my blog post, you probably saw what I'm talking about, so you know already where I'm going with this. Basically, I guess it kind of happened last week. I recorded this video earlier, but there were some technical difficulties, so I'm now having to re-record it. Essentially, what happened is a trans contestant on Survivor was outed as trans by one of his fellow contestants, I guess. I don't really know the whole scenario. I don't watch the show. I wasn't even aware the show was still going on. But apparently this contestant, was just outed, and he wanted to be private. He was trying to keep it to himself, but, some people just can't respect other people's boundaries, and so here we are. And it really kind of reminds me of, like, very early 2000s Perez Hilton, where he was, like, just outing everyone left, right, and center. And it's just like, how is this still a thing that we're doing? First of all, we all know, I think pretty collectively, that it's a really shitty and disgusting thing to just out people. And I get that, it's reality TV, things are going to be over-dramatized, and I feel like that's I'm not trying to give the guy the benefit of the doubt, but I feel like that's very possibly what happened, is that this guy was just like, oh, I'm just gonna try and make good TV or try and save my ass and throw this person under the bus. The problem with that is, really, his whole thing was like, oh, this guy's lying, he's not telling you the whole truth, as if somehow that affects his ability to be on this goddamn show. No, as I understand it, it's about, survival of the fucking fittest. They, crash land you on an island somewhere and you just have to survive and live and all that shit. I, again, have not seen this show in 1,000 years, didn't know it was still running, speaking of, early 2000s shit. So, how does that impede your ability? I don't feel like he's at any special advantage. What possible reason would you have to do something like this? It's the biggest bullshit thing ever. And I think what's the most frustrating is, now this poor guy who did not want his shit out there now has to go around and constantly answer all these questions, and people are talking about it, and how do you feel about being out? And it's just that really kind of sucks, because that's not what this story should be. How is this the narrative now? Why is it any of your business what anyone does with their life, what anyone's doing? I think the problem I have with this the most is that it's not, if it were exclusively this, maybe it wouldn't be something that's so frustrating to me, but I feel like it's this constant thing that certain people feel the need to do, and particularly cis people feel the need to do, in questioning the validity of trans people's identities. This gender policing that is going on all the time, it's what? Why? First of all, what do you gain from this? I really need to know that. What do you personally stand to gain by trying to deny my gender identity? Please tell me what you possibly could gain from this, because I can't imagine anything that you could possibly what could be gained from it. You don't get anything. You don't get fucking brownie points from the gender police. You get nothing for it. What, your own smug self-satisfaction because you proved something? I don't get it. I don't get why you feel it's your business. And, if there was anything I could ask people who feel the need to do this, it's, what do you possibly think you're going to get out of this? What, you think you're going to show us? You think you're going to tell the world and expose us and, ooh, they're trans, it's so scary. No, it's nobody's fucking business. I'm out about it because I want to help other people. I'm out about it because I don't really feel the need to keep myself closeted. I'm not good with keeping my mouth shut about things. I personally feel like, and part of this, it's kind of complicated. When I was a teenager and I thought I was just gay and I identified as male, let's say, because that's what it was. It's hard to say that now because it seems kind of surreal and it doesn't it doesn't fit anymore for me, but I identified as male, so we'll say that. And I mean, I was always, this is not, for some people who may think so, this is not some kind of like, oh, she's just overly effeminate to like make up for the fact that she's trans. No, honey. I have always been this effeminate. You can find the receipts from like 700 years ago. I have always been this effeminate. That's just me. I don't know why. It just sort of was something I always did. So the problem was when I identified as male, it was like, okay, well, here's the thing about that. Like, everybody knew that I was probably gay. Even before I knew what it was, even before I knew my sexuality, my gender identity, any of it, I didn't have words for any of it. But people knew because they were like, girl. Like, they knew. Or they thought they knew, and they decided they knew, and they put me in this box. And so when, it came to, I never had that coming out experience because I was kind of just always out. There was never an opportunity for me not to be out. And then when it came time for my transition, I was in a completely different boat because now nobody had to know. Nobody just assumed that I was any one thing because I didn't look it. I've always had very naturally feminine features. I've always had, this is my voice. I didn't do anything to it. There isn't any auto-tuning to it. There's nothing to it. Sometimes I'm a little more, I feel my voice is a little bit deeper than others, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, this is my voice as everyone hears it. There isn't anything special done to it. I didn't do any vocal training for it. This is just always the voice I had. It never went any deeper than this, which is, helpful, obviously, if your goal is to pass and your goal is to not have to deal with stupid bullshit in which people are questioning you and worrying about where you're going to go to the bathroom and all that. I mean, then it's nice. So it's the reason that I never had to be public with it if I didn't want to. The problem was I was so used to being out, so used to talking about it, that it just became one of those things where I was like, well, shit, I guess I'm going to be out about it. I guess I'm going to talk about this because I'm used to it and I don't feel comfortable kind of just laying low and not being out there. I don't know how to do that, I feel like. And so I was like, okay, well, I think also I've reached the point in my transition where I just don't care who knows anymore. I'm just like, whatever. I talk about it on my blog. I talk about it on the internet. I talk about it on my Instagram, my Twitter, all that fun crap. Obviously here on YouTube. Like, I don't feel like I have any kind of... What would be the point of being secret about it? Like, you can Google this. If you look up my name and... there is probably no other Narcissa Deville. You'll probably get Narcissa Malfoy, but you're not going to get another Narcissa Deville. So it's like, what? It's me. You're going to see me. I've never made a point of hiding my face. I've never made a point of hiding behind some other name. Like, this is just me. So there's no getting around it, So I never felt, for a long time, I haven't felt the need to, I can't say I never felt, but for a long time, I never felt the need to, keep it to myself. But that's my decision. You know what I mean? It's not for everyone. That's not a decision that everyone can make. And I feel like you have to make the decision for yourself, whether or not you want to be public about it. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who want to argue, and I even said this on the blog, there's going to be a lot of people who want to argue, well, he went on a reality show. You have to understand that if you're going to go on a reality show, everything is going to be just on the table. It's all fair game because you're on a reality show. But I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, if you look at it for what it is, this person is, it's transition is complicated because we don't, what do you classify it as? According to the DSMV, it's still kind of like vaguely, slightly, they don't want to say it's a mental illness, but they still classify it kind of as one. It's on the cusp of like mental illness and physical illness. So it's like, how do you classify it? But if it's a medical issue, and as long as the DSMV classifies it, it's a medical issue, let's say. I don't agree with that term, but let's just say, okay? Well, guess what? You don't get to know my fucking medical history. Okay? If you have a colonoscopy, nobody fucking needs to know about that. That doesn't come up in a reality show. Nobody just knows about that. If you talk about it, they know about it. You know, if she hadn't said anything in the season finale, I would never have known that Cynthia Lee Fontaine had dealt with cancer because I didn't follow her particularly, so I wouldn't have known anything about that. She came out with it. She talked about it. She made it something that she felt was important to discuss. If she had never done that, I never would have known. The same with Trinity, and I think it's Trinity, who in season 6, who was dealing with HIV, or Angina, who was the first one to say she had HIV. You don't know these things unless people talk about it, but guess what? They don't have to talk about it. No one owes you any explanation of anything. I'm sorry. That's just the reality. I don't owe you an explanation of my gender or my identity or my sexuality or my anything. I don't owe you that. Okay? Even now on YouTube, I don't technically owe you that. I want to do that personally, but that's my decision. That is not a decision everyone can make. And that's not a decision everyone should make. You have to decide for yourself what you're comfortable revealing, what you're comfortable with people knowing, and that includes on a reality show. And I feel like for this person to take it upon themselves to throw this person under the bus and say, well, you're not being honest, you're this, you're that, blah, 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 blah. It's none of your goddamn business. And I'm sorry, did you think that was going to save you or something? Like, I just really don't understand what possible circumstance that made sense to this person. I really just don't get it. And I guess I have to appreciate, I did read that the host of the show was kind of like, yeah, that's not cool. We don't do that. And that's great. And I applaud that. But at the same time, it shouldn't have happened in the first place. I don't know why certain people feel the need to do this. And it's obviously not every cis person. It is not every, I'm sure trans people do this to each other. But it's the type of thing, it's like, why do you feel this is necessary? What do you gain from doing this? Because I honestly can't think of anything, personally. I can't think of anything, and honestly, it's really shitty. And it's really gross. And I feel like we shouldn't be doing this. And I don't want to say in this day and age, I've had this conversation before. The current time frame does not matter to people who are stuck in the past. It just doesn't. But I feel like this is something that we generally should know is just gross. Okay? It's just gross. Don't fucking out people. Why? Just don't do it. Just don't do, and I realize that's like oversimplifying things by a lot, but I don't think it's that hard to just not talk about people's gender identity without their permission and without having a conversation with them first. I mean, if that was the case, fine. I have a kind of open rule with my friends that I'm like, you know what? If you want to talk about me, if you want to say something about my gender identity and all that, go right ahead. I am never going to tell you not to do that with my friends personally about me. But I make sure to tell them, if you know any other trans person, you don't out them. It is not about anyone else. This rule applies to me and me only. Don't just assume it applies to every trans person. Don't just assume you can ask every trans person the same thing you could ask me. Because I don't care. I'll tell you what surgeries I plan to have. I will tell you what my process was, what everything I did, how the name change went. I will tell you almost anything. I won't tell you my old name. That's just... I just won't do that. That's not really any of your business, and it's just silly. So I won't do that. But I will tell you pretty much anything else. If you want to know something, if you want to talk about something, if it's something you feel you need to know, especially as, if you're a fellow trans person who's like, I just need help. Of course, you can ask me. I am happy to answer questions. I think the thing that was the most frustrating for me was I was the sort of person where I didn't feel like I had that kind of help. I did utilize YouTube and Google and all those things, but I didn't really feel like I had anyone who I could ask about things because I didn't have trans friends. And that was really, really frustrating to me. It's only recently that I've gained, a few trans friends here and there. So I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice for some reason. And that's really, really annoying. But yeah, I really hope this doesn't become a thing that we see more frequently where people are just outing people. I think that's so gross. I think that's so just wrong and silly and ridiculous. Sorry, silly is too nice. It's just ridiculous and it's gross, and just don't, okay? If you like this video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions about trans-related things that you want to know, please feel free to ask me. You can put it down in the comments. You can ask me privately at askcissa@narcissadeville.com. Of course, if you have a question for me that you'd like to see responded to in a video, let me know in the subject line of the email to askcissa, and I will make a video about that. I've always wanted to do that. I love answering questions. So if you have anything you want to know that maybe I'm hoping that trans issues will become something that I cover and that I vlog about, but I don't know at what point when. I've got kind of a lot of ideas rolling around in my head, so I have to kind of deal with those first and then move on from there. So yeah, I don't have an outro for here's the thing. It's just thank you all for watching. Please don't make me fucking discuss this shit again. Let's not and say we didn't, because I don't want to have to discuss this all the damn time. You know what I mean? Learn from your mistakes. Do better.